It's been great to have the chance to hear all these ideas and how the people living and working in the Northeast have just risen to the challenge of tackling a pandemic. It's something that's going to have the biggest economic shock of our lifetimes. What's even more special is that each of these people will be having their own challenges at home, whether that's working from home without any warning, homeschooling children, maybe doing both at the same time, caring for loved ones who are shielding, supporting neighbours. I mean, the number of people I've interviewed who are doing all of those things and then somehow still finding time to sew thousands of items of PPE for care workers, or do extra drops with the food bank, or even return to jobs in the health service that could risk their lives. It is incredible. We need to support them. And it says so much about our society that we can work together like this, neighbourly, locally, regionally, nationally, and of course, globally. So to our final keynote, who's speaking to us from Texas in the US, while I go and cut this fringe, I introduce you to the Global Chief Technology Officer for Sage, Mr. Aaron Harris.
Hi, everyone, and greetings from America. Not able to join you physically, but at least spiritually or symbolically, I'm there with you today. Well, my job as the CTO of Sage is to define our technology strategy, to lay out a vision, and really to be the person who's evangelizing it. And it really is a bit of a dream job for me, and it's incredibly exciting right now because there's so much happening in the world of tech. Well, as I lay out this vision for the future, we talk about something that we call a digital environment. A digital environment is a new way of thinking about how applications and experiences and tools and services come together to help humans, do more elevated tasks in the era of digital computing, digital transformation. And it all starts with this realization that we've entered into a new era of computing. So if you go all the way back to when I was a young teenager, I got commissions to write my first accounting package by a piano teacher. She wanted me to catalog the inventory of all of her sheet music. And the computer that I had to do that on was an Atari 800 XL that operated at 1.8 megahertz. If you fast forward to what would be available to me today to write that same software, I can go rent a compute node from AWS that has 96 virtual CPUs that operates at 3.6 gigahertz. My math says that it's about 75,000 times faster than the computer that I had access to the first time that I wrote an accounting package. And it's really not just the computing power, it's also storage. Storage now is effectively free, right? There's no constraints on storage. You can run out to Amazon and get this little thumb drive, last I checked, for about $40. The only reason they're not smaller is that you've got to be able to grip the thing. Another side of that story is Amazon Web Services Glacier. Glacier runs you about $1 a month for a terabyte of storage. So storage, in addition to computing power, is virtually unlimited when we think about how we design our solutions. But the real breakthrough, I think, is when we started to virtualize the infrastructure that we run our applications on, when hardware became code, when the idea of serverless computing was introduced, where we no longer have to manage a physical unit as a way of planning capacity. With that came auto-scaling infrastructure, the ability to automatically expand when requirements demand, and to retract when those requirements go away. And as engineers who now have the access to this kinds of computing, we now re-architect our applications differently. We build services that work really well in these virtual environments. And the punchline, essentially, to all of this is that as you build business applications, that are transactional in nature, we now have virtually unlimited concurrency. And that should be the starting point for how we think about building software. So if you think about what we do at Sage as we build financial management solutions or even payroll or HR products, what does this mean as we design these solutions? Well, the first thing it means is that we now have enough scalability to capture every transaction in real time with enough detail to look at all business dimensions, right? Go back 10 years, the last generation of software, and you brought in just enough data to produce exactly what you needed for reporting, right? Just enough to be compliant. Now we're saying bring in all the data, bring in more than you need because we can handle all of that data. And we know that down the road, we'll be able to analyze in rich detail. It also means, as I described earlier, that we have effortless economical elasticity. You don't even have to plan for it anymore. If you leverage serverless computing with auto-scaling environments, you just don't think about it. As long as you're designing in a services-based approach using these kinds of technologies, the solution scales for you. It means zero latency analytics. Let's rethink the way we do reporting and analytics. The old model is you have to dump the data out into a separate database. You had to redesign your data stores. You had to hire experts at BI to configure the data to be usable. But for most cases these days, the same database that's hosting all of your transactional data is probably powerful enough and capable enough to do all the analytics without you having to move that data. When we get into the world of machine learning and we think about the things we can do with AI, one example is using that computing power to audit the system. So in the old world of audits, you have people come in once a year, they look at a sample of transactions and they try to infer from those samples whether or not a company is operating within their controls. But with unlimited computing power, we can audit every transaction in real time. And in real time, we can understand if something is going out of whack or something is not operating the way it should within a business. And that leads me to my last point, right? If you go back to the beginning where we encourage organizations to bring in all of the data that they may want to analyze future, that data now becomes these incredibly powerful data sets for driving machine learning. And so this era of abundant computing has been made available by the public cloud, right? This was really the breakthrough that allowed us to access and tap into this power. Part of what that's done is it's accelerated our transition into the world of artificial intelligence. It's that power that's made these capabilities more mainstream, right? So we've got this unlimited computing power. We now have AI going mainstream, right? We can apply it to a completely new set of problems. And effectively what that's doing is it's driving digital transformation. Businesses and organizations realize that they can now use that power to convert their business models into fully digital business models. Now, at the time that I put this particular slide together, COVID was just raising its head. And at that time, 50%-ish of companies were planning, they were somewhere on their journey for digital transformation. If you pay attention to Satya Nadella at Microsoft, in his last earnings call, he said something I think pretty profound in a very short sentence. We've seen 2 years worth of digital transformation in just 2 months, right? So this transformation into digital business models, which was already happening, is now accelerating. So imagine this world where everything is digitized, everything is automated. What role do humans now play in that? So go back to the beginning of my conversation with you. I told you, I think experience design is now more important than technology. So let's think about the role of humans. So here's an interesting thing that I ran into the other day. We think about AI and technology, and it appears magic in its ability to provide insights to us. But take a look at the screen here from somebody's mobile device. They were simultaneously prompted to go outside for a bit of fresh air to play some game, while also receiving an emergency alert about a tornado going through the area. Technology lacks context. Technology does not have the breadth of context and the understanding of relationships that humans have, right? So while technology is going to drive this relentless digital transformation, we have to remember that humans have unique capabilities and unique skills. And so as we think about, how do we design the business applications of the future, we have two questions in our minds that drive all of this. So the first is, how are we going to enable businesses on their digital transformation? What can we provide in the way of technology and products and services to help them digitize their business models? And as they go through that journey of digital transformation, how do we elevate the work of humans? What are the new jobs that humans will be doing? What are the tasks that are ideally suited to humans? How do we leverage humans and their broad context and the relationships that they have and are able to leverage? The answer to that is what we call a digital environment. At Sage, we have a mission, which is to transform the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. The digital environment adds a very simple piece to that. It says, in the era of digital transformation. There are 5 attributes of a digital environment that really reflect this new world of computing. Some of them I think you'll find are a bit provocative. The first of these is that multi-tenancy is evolving or needs to evolve to encapsulate identity and relationships between individuals, between organizations, between devices. The relationships between these individuals, organizations, and devices then become a network that can facilitate digital exchange, communication, workflow, and as we'll see, it can also provide a mechanism for programmatic trust. When we create this network, when we hook all of these connections together, we can take AI, raise it above multi-tenancy, and we can train it on the entire environment, on the entire network, right? So what we learn from that network, from all the relationships that are formed on that network, can be harnessed to leverage every resident. Well, now we get to experience. Experience is no longer just something you think about in one product, or after you log in until you log out of a product. Experience has to be designed for every element of the journey of a customer, from their first visit to a website, through all their interactions, whether it's getting their bill or getting support. We also have to envision that experience is going to reach new people. It's no longer just the accountant or the bookkeeper that's using the accounting application, or the CFO that's using analytics. Every individual in a business ecosystem is going to be touched by technology now, and we have to think about how experience is designed for that. And then lastly, a digital environment reflects a brand. In our case, it's the Sage brand, but really this is any brand, right? A brand comes with values. It comes with a consistency of experience. And when individuals really embrace the brand, it creates a sense of comfort and safety and confidence. So I'm going to go through each one of these with you, because these concepts are, I think, pretty important in this new era of computing. So identity being the new tenancy. This is a bit provocative for me, because I was one of the original preachers of multi-tenancy, and indeed, multi-tenancy is still one of the key architectural components of cloud computing. But multi-tenancy is limited, right? It doesn't really solve what we need going forward in a digital environment, right? So multi-tenancy enabled seamless upgrades. It enabled economies of scale. Multi-tenancy forced software vendors like Sage to think of extensibility as configuration. It radically changed the way we build software. The problem with multi-tenancy as the only view of software is that those tenants are unaware of each other. So users, data, activity, all these things are strictly contained within a tenant. With a digital environment, the tenancy model now extends to include identities and the connections and the relationships between those identities. an identity being an individual or an organization or even a device is a way that we can think about it. And so now that we understand these relationships, we can manage experience, we can look at the workflows that span across the entire network of relationships. Once we understand those relationships, we can create digital connections. These digital connections are a way to enable organizations to digitize their business models. So imagine a digital connection between a company and a job applicant, or between a company and their customer. We can do things like digital transaction exchange. In a simple example, two organizations in the environment may have a supplier relationship. In this case, the network would facilitate digital transmission of purchase orders, invoices, payments, and other transactions that span that relationship. And what's really cool about this is that we could then write those transactions or a record of those transactions to a blockchain distributed ledger, thereby creating assurance, right, and eliminating reconciliation. Make sure, by the way, after my session to watch Klaus Michael Vogelberg's session on the trust fabric to see exactly how, we're already working on this and plan to make this real. Workflow. When we design workflow today in business applications, we think about the workflow within a business. But what about the workflow across businesses? What about the workflow between an employer and a job applicant? Right. So we can expand that concept to reach across the entire ecosystem for a business. And then that naturally leads to communication, to collaboration, right? How do we facilitate communication between all of these constituents who live in the digital environment? I mentioned the power of AI. When you lift AI to the level of the network, data now benefits everyone, right? It enables, when you look at what cloud computing did, cloud computing enabled cloud vendors to aggregate customer data into one place, right? Which enabled new capabilities like collective intelligence and machine learning. Cloud solutions also, allowed us to tap into the power needed to train machine learning models. Well, the digital business environment extends those capabilities to learn from activity and relationships across the network. And because the environment extends data scope across individuals and organizations, all residents benefit, right? You can create collective intelligence models. You can drive more intelligent forecasting because the span of data that you can use to access makes these models much more accurate and efficient. All of this, by the way, has to be wrapped in privacy and governance. One of the themes that we note as we're moving into the era of digital transformation is that simultaneously trust and privacy are becoming more and more important. It's really a part of our culture now that individuals and organizations are incredibly sensitive, as they should be, to privacy. So as we build capabilities using data, it has to be wrapped in disciplined and effective governance programs. Experience radically changes in a world like this. So if you think about all of the repetitive processes now being automated, right? And what do we do to enable humans to be more successful at the new tasks they're doing? How do we reach a new set of users who wouldn't otherwise access the technology? There's 6 things that we think about, right? The first of these is the expansion from limited graphical user interfaces to what we call natural user interfaces, creating a collection of interfaces that are suited for specific types of people doing specific types of jobs. Digital assistants, natural language processing, bots within Teams or Slack or other ways of doing corporate communication. Common interaction tools, right? If I'm using a lot of business products, I don't want to have to learn a new way of doing, for example, approvals, or I don't want to have to learn a new way of collaborating with my fellow coworkers using a different tool for each product. There should be a common way of interacting and collaborating across all of the products within a digital environment. We have to think about new ways of working. What are the new jobs that humans are going to be working on in this new world. We have to envision that we're designing software for new users, for that job applicant who's now actually using my HR product. This next one's really, really important. Humans still haven't learned to trust AI. And so as we embed more and more AI into our products, as we automate more and more of these features, as we use AI to augment the intelligence of humans, we have to manage that relationship, right? That means that the way we design the experience has to build trust between humans and AI. And then lastly, our experience needs to span across the entire business ecosystem, right? You have to support collaboration across all of these relationships, not just, you know, the people on a project, right, or colleagues within the same organization. And lastly, these environments have to have a consistency to them that reflect a brand and its values. And that consistency is not just derived from the colors and the fonts and the look and feel. It comes through a set of common capabilities and services, design principles. It comes from service commitments, right? You know, what are the commitments to privacy? What are the commitments to reliability? It's not just what you build, it's what you don't build, right? It should reflect a set of principles that guide the behavior of an organization. And so that creates safety, which implies more than trust. It also implies confidence. As individuals gain familiarity, they begin to realize that they can quickly learn new tasks because they understand the way the environment works. So our way of representing this digital environment is through the Sage Business Cloud. The Sage Business Cloud is much more than just the cloud products that we at Sage build and sell and support to our customers. It's all the ways that our customers interact across different tools, across different products with each other. And so what I'd like to do is take you through a scenario that shows the Sage Business Cloud in action. Now, this is an artist's mock-up, but I find that it's very, very effective in showing what we mean by all of this. Okay, so meet Jennifer. Jennifer is a 35-year-old senior engineering director who works at a fictional company called InstaEat. So what does Jennifer care about? She cares about, you know, building innovative solutions for her customers. She wants to build, you know, high performance teams, and, you know, unfortunately she's a manager, which also means that she's got to manage her department within a budget. So this is Jennifer. Now meet Harry. Harry is a recruiter, somebody that we all rely on in the technology business. Harry is a young, you know, Generation Z, 28-year-old recruiter, and what he cares about is, you know, meeting lots of people. He cares about finding top talent quickly, and he cares about, you know, getting access to the information and schedules that he needs to be efficient and to run people through the process, giving them a great experience. So fast forward a little bit, Jennifer has successfully pitched a product idea to her company, InstaEat, to improve their current product suite so they can compete with their biggest competitor. So as part of that process, Jennifer has to work with her department head to define the makeup of the team that will be required to build the initial product. And so the project has been approved by Laura, the CFO, and they've been given a conservative budget to hire. Now, as soon as the CFO approves that budget, Harry gets a notification on his mobile device letting him know that the project's been approved, right? So Harry hasn't had to go into an accounting product or an ERP product or some HR product. Harry was directly notified on his mobile device, and he's actually able to tap on the notification to get more information about this project and, you know, understand what the schedule looks like and, you know, plan out the recruiting that's necessary to staff the people for this project. So still on his mobile device, Harry's able to pick a time to meet with Jennifer to go over all the needs of this project. So Jennifer got the same notification. She's clicked that notification, And she's now able to go into their HR product and to start the planning for this project. You know, what's the hiring that they need to do? And she can see already from the screen what her budget is for hiring. So she's going to that kickoff meeting with Harry. Harry and Jennifer together take a look at what they need, and they've created this project page with all the hiring that they need. And what you can see on the screen here is a number of cards that show the individuals who need to be hired and the forecasted likelihood of their ability to hire that individual. So now go back to one of those themes that I mentioned, that AI can be applied across the entire ecosystem, across the entire digital network, right? Which then benefits everybody. So we know by the activity going on in the digital environment where the salaries are, what positions are hard to hire. And we can see here that we're actually a bit concerned about hiring the lead role. It's only a 2-star likelihood of hire, 44%. And, we think the challenge actually is that we haven't budgeted, in the right range of salary. Again, we're able to tap into the collective intelligence of the entire digital network to understand the salary ranges. So we think this is a really critical hire. So what we're going to do is Harry's actually going to bump up the range for this particular individual. Bump, right? And you can see actually the forecast likelihood of hiring that person has now gone to 97%. Unfortunately, that also means that the project has gone over budget by $15,000. Well, we think this is really, really important. So what we're going to do is let the CFO know, look, we're going over budget. We'd like you to approve it because we think we need this extra budget to hire the lead, which is critical to this. So this is humans doing what they're good at, making decisions, leveraging their relationships. So Harry's going to add that comment, and now Harry is asking a digital assistant to get involved to run the approval process. Okay, so simultaneously now, let's take a look at what's happening in Laura's world. So Laura is the Chief Financial Officer at InstaEat, and she's provided that conservative budget. But she needs to, she needs to get insight into what's happening in the business. She needs to make strategic decisions. She needs to monitor the forecasts. And of course, you know what just happened. Her forecast just got skewed. She's going to be at least $15,000 over based on the hiring needs of this project. So in fact, Laura is going to be alerted in real time when the forecast changes. So she understands that the budget is going to be exceeded by $15,000. She's actually able to click on that and see the conversation that Harry has started to help Laura understand why it's gone over budget. She's able to actually go in and collaborate, and you can see Harry brought up the digital assistant to help Laura to review and potentially approve or reject the increase in the budget. Well, Laura's not that easy to get approval. She wants to do some research. So she's going to go into the full accounting product to do the work that she needs to do. So we talk a lot about these new experiences, these new ways of working, working in Teams if that's where you're comfortable, or Slack, working on a mobile device if that's where you're comfortable. But these big, beautiful UIs that we run on our desktops are still just as important. When Laura needs to do some focused thinking, she's going to pull out that laptop. She's going to go to the dashboards, right? She's going to really understand what's going on before making that decision to approve the budget, right? So she's done her homework. She goes back to Teams. She's got the ability now to have a little bit more of a conversation, tell them, hey, you know what, I'm willing to approve this, but actually what you need to do is to move some of the hiring around to smooth it out. So having passed that on to Jennifer, she gets busy working on the schedule. So she's back again, she's doing focused work where she needs the big screen, right? She needs this more detailed experience. So Jennifer now is in there, she's making adjustments. She's moved things the way Laura wanted them. The budget's been recalculated. The probability for hiring everybody looks great. And now Jennifer adds a note that's captured, right? We're capturing what are the decisions that humans are making? How have they been interacting? How are they collaborating with each other? She tags Laura and she tags Harry so that they're informed. So over in whatever tool you happen to be using, in this case, Laura's in Teams, right? In real time, she actually sees, in the context of this project, that the budget's been moved around, right? We're now actually fitting nicely. We're all confident that we're going to make the hires that we need. And Laura can click that approve button that's been provided by the digital assistant. Right, so this is, I think this isn't science fiction, right? We're not talking about capabilities that are in the near future. Everything that I showed you is available. It can be created with technology that's available today. What's I think critical and a bit groundbreaking about this is the experience, right? It's how do you actually leverage technology to help humans to be incredibly efficient at their jobs, right? To take advantage of the unique skills and talents of humans. So that was the walkthrough of the Sage Business Cloud. Well, that was just one example of many that show the power of connecting the relationships within the business ecosystem and creating digital capabilities to flow across those relationships, really reimagining the experience of humans who are now doing different jobs. They're making decisions, they're doing deep focused thinking, they're leveraging their relationships to ultimately create better outcomes for their organizations and for their businesses. Got this great graphic that shows how all this flows across the Sage Business Cloud. So as we build these capabilities within Sage, we're doing it across 3 areas of investment. So the first is what we call that digital experience, right? It's all the capabilities that span across applications and platforms and services. It's this common design system that creates a sense of consistency and creates confidence in the users, that represents modern ways of working. We make investments in what we call the digital journey, managing the experience from an individual's first interaction with the technology before they've even purchased anything across all functions, not just in the product, but the billing, getting support, looking at your legal agreements even. And the digital network, which we think is the most ambitious piece of this, actually mapping, creating a graph, if you will, of all of the relationships across the business ecosystems, and then creating digital connections and creating digital capabilities to flow across those relationships. And what makes all of that happen, if we go back to the very first principle of a digital environment, right, where tenancy was the critical foundation for cloud computing, now identity and relationships becomes the critical capability in the digital environment. Identity makes all of this possible. So that's our thinking. That's the vision for the Sage Business Cloud and the digital environment. That's all about experience. But if you really unpeel each of what I showed you, there's a lot of opportunities for AI and machine learning. There's opportunities for emerging technology like blockchain to actually create this experience that we want for our customers.